Power, Happiness and Success family. This video is about the 10 habits that will change your life. This is absolutely crucial, but before we move on any further, let's uncover the same kind of issues that a lot of people face, and I've been there before as well. And the issue is this: say there are certain things in your life that you wish to change. Now, you might have some initial motivation in order to think, you know what, I can do this. I can start that exercise regime or that eating program. I can start meditating and gaining consciousness and being more peaceful in life. Or, I can start developing my skills in order to get promoted or to launch a product or to begin a business or what have you, and all these sorts of things. And then, as we know, what happens, within a few days, that kind of drive, that initial motivation fades away. And one of the main reasons it fades away is because of stress, as well as not having enough or a big enough why. Why did you want to create that change in the first place? And that lack of clarity, that lack of desire, and the fact that it was just pure motivation, and I'll touch upon this in a moment, are some of the reasons why people give up prematurely and they can't make the brilliant changes they want to their life and then make it a subconscious program. So let's dive straight in. If we need to succeed, and before I start with the 10 amazing habits that you want to ingrain in your life, let me understand that we also need the CIA. That's right, the CIA. Not that kind of CIA, we need something different. So the first component of CIA is commitment. We need commitment in our life. We need to become devoted to this cause. By commitment, I mean investing in something, investing your time, your energy, your finances, even whatever it takes to become committed to something. Because the more you invest in something, the more you value it, the more you adhere to it, and the more emotional attachment you have to that change, whatever it is that you want to improve in your life. So commitment is absolutely key, and people start off with a commitment, and commitment fades for many different reasons, like I outlined to begin with. The next component is inspiration. Now, this is crucial. I spoke to you earlier about motivation. Now, motivation is more of an egoic form of energy, if you will. All I mean by that is that motivation is good, and you can certainly accomplish a lot in life, but you're trying to force things to happen. You're trying to force an outcome when you are motivated. For example, I'm going to make sure I run that little bit more because blah, 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 blah. You're forcing something to happen. It's not coming naturally within you. You don't, for instance, you don't wake up and just think, you know what, I really fancy going for a run. Motivation is, you know what, I need to go for a run, I need to lose weight. And you know what, you can, for example, in that example, lose a lot of weight in doing so, but you're going to meet a lot of resistance along the way. And motivation is a reason why motivation oftentimes is not enough to get the required changes that we seek. So let's move on to the last component of this acronym, and it is awareness. Okay. If we're going to change anything in life, if we're going to become happier, more positive, more enlightened, more awakened, more intelligent, more successful, develop our self-esteem, whatever you want to improve in your life, if we're going to make it happen, the very first step is being able to identify what challenges you face, becoming aware of your own thoughts, your own emotions, your own behaviors, your own routines. And when you are able to kind of identify and notice what's going wrong, and maybe start to even make some more nuanced perceptions, as in, this time of the day I usually feel this way, or these are some of the recurring thoughts I have. And when you become aware of your own thinking, and that what we need to do in order to make that happen is we need to detach from our own thoughts. We need to become the observer, the watcher of our own thoughts. So if you have a limiting thought, and I'll touch upon this later on, but if we have a limiting thought that goes, I'm incapable of getting that promotion, or I'm not going to be able to sustain this weight loss, so I'll probably lose a couple of pounds, I'll gain it back again, or a limiting thought such as that, then what you'd have to do is detach and become aware of that thought. You know what, where did that thought come from? Why am I saying that I'm not going to be able to lose this weight long term? Where did that come from? Oh, is it because I tried one diet at the wrong time of the year and I gave up prematurely? Have I really tried everything? And then you start to question and poke at these limiting beliefs, these limiting thoughts. And that's how you can kind of begin the process of change. So yes, the CIA is needed for us to make some appropriate changes in our lives. Let's dive into the 10 fundamental habits and steps that we want to incorporate in order to become a happier, more enlightened being. Again, before we dive in, make sure you hit the subscribe button and also click the notification bell, because every single week I release several videos such as this, and it's going to have a profound effect on the quality of your life. So make sure you should subscribe now. Now, before I go into the many steps and habits that you want to integrate, I also want you to understand what happens when we say we want to achieve a certain goal and we kind of break our promise. Now, the more this happens, what happens is you begin to lose trust within yourself. So if you made a promise to yourself, I'm going to make this amount of money every single year, or I'm going to travel to 5 different destinations around the world every single year because I want to travel the world. When you make these promises to yourself, and every time you break these promises, even if they're smaller, it doesn't have to be as significant as the 2 examples I just gave you. But even if you set these, and you set yourself up for failure sometimes by being unrealistic as well. But if you make this promise to yourself, and if you don't live up to it, and the more often this happens, you begin to lose trust within yourself, and your self-esteem suffers as a result. And what happens is it fuels and creates even more limiting beliefs. And in the future, say if you're like, you know what, I want to start investing in stocks and shares, or investing in real estate, or you know what, I really want to work on my relationship and get it back to the way things used to be, and those are your goals, you'll start to say things like, oh, but remember when you just last week you tried to lose weight, and how did that work out? It didn't work out well for you, did it? Or you start to think to yourself, yeah, remember when you went on that course to become, become qualified so that you can finally get that promotion that you seek? What happened to that? You didn't even finish the course, did you? So what makes you think you're going to be able to do this or that? So these are the sort of things that happen when we break our promises. So become very aware of this. Okay, so step 1, the number 1 habit we will want to incorporate in order to become happier, healthier, more enlightened, to make the changes we want. And I know it doesn't sound attractive, but it's healthy eating. This is crucial. What happens is when we become used to consuming really unhealthy foods, like highly refined processed foods with exorbitant amounts of sugar, glucose, and so on and so forth, what happens is our cells become dysfunctional, and it essentially becomes filled and clogged with all this glucose, and it's not working properly. And what happens is our own pancreas will start to create its own glucose and sugar, and to try and force these cells to eat. Have you ever gone out for dinner and you ate a 5-course meal, you were bloated, and then maybe you had an eating competition with your friend, and they said, no, you gotta eat more, and you're like, no, please, I don't want to eat ever again. That's kind of how your cells feel when you become insulin resistant, when you eat these kind of unhealthy foods like your burgers, your chips, your fried foods, your Coca-Cola too often, all these sorts of things. And this sort of leads to chronic inflammation, and over time it leads to a high amount of oxidative stress. And when you eat these kind of foods and you eat unhealthily on a regular basis, firstly it provides a foggy, fatigued brain. You become more exhausted throughout the day. You always need something external in order to give you that boost, and usually it's food in this instance, because it turns on these addictive hormones, and you become addicted to eating, and it becomes part of your daily routine. And then you begin to associate it with your identity. Then you start, these are the foods I eat, it's just the way I am. And that's how you get into these really bad habits, and also incur all kinds of health-related issues and diseases and so on and so forth down the line. So healthy eating is fundamental, and also in order to facilitate change in your life, eating healthy is absolutely crucial. Like I said before, your body produces these free chemicals, free radicals, if you will, when we eat unhealthily over time. And these free radicals wreak havoc all over your body, and these free radicals go and they look to steal electrons from healthy existing cells, and in doing so it damages their DNA as well. And what happens is the once healthy cells also, because of the chain reaction that ensues, also becomes a damaged cell. Now you've got your free radicals in your body proliferate and worsen, and that's what creates disease and low energy, and constantly feeling chronically fatigued and so on and so on, and chronic stress, and all these awful things stem from oxidative stress. So by eating healthily instead, by eating a lot of flavonoids and the massive form of polyphenols, in essentially eating a lot of colourful fruit and a lot of colourful vegetable. Earth-grown foods is what we seek here. Organic foods where possible. When you eat these kind of unprocessed foods, what happens is it produces the antioxidants and it produces those electrons that I said earlier, and it essentially gives the electrons to the free radicals, the harmed cells, so that they become full and strong once again, and they can finally function like they used to. So this is fantastic and really important, because it's not just great for the cells in our body, but also the cells in our mind. That's why we protect our existing neurons by eating healthily. We have more energy. We stimulate things like BDNF in the brain-derived nootropic factor, making us make better choices, learn things, acquire information more readily, and so on and so forth. So the way in which we eat will have a massive effect on your level of success, joy, happiness, peace in life, because you're giving your mind and body what it needs. You're allowing yourself to function at your best. Okay, so step number 2 is your morning routine. Make sure you instill a proper morning routine, because really what we want to do here is we want to put ourselves first, and a lot of people don't do this. They don't do it financially, because they spend money on their bills, on their loans, on their mortgages, and so on and so forth, and at the end of the day, at the end of the month, whatever money they've got left over, they spend frivolously on silly, luxurious, egotistical kind of material goods in order to try and pep themselves up and make them feel better. And this cycle is not really paying yourself first. Instead, it's good to literally put money into different accounts for different investments, to kind of build things up to your different savings accounts and these sort of things, to pay for things that's going to increase your likelihood of developing passive income and all these sorts of things. But the same applies to our lives as well. The same applies to waking up. And what I advise is to make sure you establish a morning routine of just a few things that you do in order to put yourself first. So, I'm not here to tell you exactly what to do. You're your own person, do what you think's right, but here are some ideas that might help you. Meditation is key, and that can consist of some deep breathing, some deep visualization. I'll talk about that later as well. As a way of gathering yourself, projecting the future you want. And when you do these kind of meditations, you put your hand on your heart and just think about all the things you're grateful for in your life, all the people you're grateful to have in your life, all the grateful opportunities, the fact that you can learn, the fact that you're breathing, the fact that we have freedom to exercise and to do this, especially over the weekends, for example. We have all this free time to kind of do the things, the leisure activities that we really enjoy doing. Become grateful, become appreciative. Meditation is key for that. Exercise is also fundamental as well. Exercise is mood enhancing. It releases endorphins. It actually promotes what I'm going to talk about later on, neurogenesis. So exercise can actually make you more intelligent, especially if you do HIIT training, high intensity interval training. Fantastic for being able to transform your body, but also your mind. High intensity interval training also stimulates BDNF, like I spoke about earlier, brain-derived nootropic factor. Again, making you have clearer thoughts, allowing you to have like a sponge-like brain, if you will, where you're able to absorb and learn things more quickly. So these are some really fundamental things. Exercise is a great stress reliever as well, as you know. Or even just stretching if you can't go and go for a run, or do some resistance training and so on and so forth. So exercise, meditation, deep breathing, reading, or some form of learning, I'll talk about that later as well, is a great principle to wake up to. Having a diary, or writing out your goals, or writing the things that you're grateful for. These are some brilliant routines. Or having a cold shower, which is fantastic for immune boosting properties, developing discipline in your life, cleansing your body, eliminating the bad toxins, helping with blood circulation, all these wonderful things. So these are some of the kind of practices that you might want to incorporate into your daily morning routine. Okay, the third habit is experiencing new things. So yes, new experiences are great because it stimulates what's called the neuroplasticity. That's right. Neuroplasticity is one of the most important things to make us happier, to make us feel like we're progressing in life, to help to restructure and rewire our brains, therefore our beliefs, to get rid of those old archaic limiting beliefs where you think, you can't do that, you're not smart enough, you're not this enough, you're not that enough. When you experience new things on a regular basis, it can be things like going to new restaurants, watching new movies. It could be going on new holidays, new trips. It could be embarking on new workshops, seminars, courses. It could be reading new books. Whenever you do something novel, that newness is absolutely fantastic because it helps to create new connections in your brain, essentially coming up with new thoughts. When you think something, when neurons in your brain connect differently, that is essentially learning. That is essentially allowing yourself to come up with new thoughts. If you want new results in your life, which is why you're watching this video, you're going to want to have new thoughts. We cannot come up with new thoughts if we do the same sort of things every single day. If we see the same sort of people, we interact with the same sort of people, we do the same kind of things, if we drive the same places every single day, then we fall into automatic response, and our subconscious programs from the past continue, and we can continue to fuel these negative practices that's holding us back. So yes, new experiences are key, because what happens is when you go to existing places that you're very familiar with, what happens is your brain turns on certain circuits every single time. So if you went to an office, if you visited the school, if you went to the park, if you went to a gym, your brain is so accustomed to going to these places that it turns on certain patterns in your brain. And if you're going to the same places every single day, you're going to be turning on the same mental, emotional patterns every single day, and therefore thinking, feeling, and behaving in the same sort of ways. And therefore, you're not going to create the newness, the brilliant things that you so seek. So please get used to doing new experiences. Also, make sure you comment below on places that you want to visit this year. What are your goals? What new things can you incorporate? Make sure you comment below. I can't wait to read them and get in touch as well. Let's continue. Yes, number 4 is learn something new every single day. At this moment in time, it's irrelevant how substantial the new information is, but learning is key because it activates neurogenesis. Neurogenesis is the creation of new neurons in your brain, primarily the hippocampus, but different areas in your brain as well, your forebrain. Creating new neurons in your brain. If you have new neurons, you therefore create new connections in your brain. When you learn something new, what happens is it produces new neurons and also creates newer connections amongst your neurons, creating new thoughts. Like I said earlier, you create new thoughts. That's the definition of learning. That's the definition of becoming more intelligent. The more intelligent you are, the more you are able to plan, think logically, make better choices in your life, understand things, perceive things, develop emotional intelligence, and change your brain over time. So neurogenesis is key. Now, after the age of 35, your average person becomes a set of memorized patterns, emotions, behaviors. We become kind of set in our ways, so to speak, and that kind of exacerbates as we get older and older thereafter. But when we learn new things, doesn't matter what your age is, it helps to stimulate neurogenesis. You can become smarter. Does not matter about your age. You can make the changes required in your life by learning new things. It doesn't mean reading. Obviously, there's a reason why your average CEO reads 60 books or more every single year, whereas your average employer reads between 1 to 3 books every single year. If you want to improve the quality of your life in many different areas, learning and reading is key. If you don't like reading, that's absolutely fine. Watching videos such as this, going on tutorials, going on courses, workshops, seminars are all great ways of learning new things as well. As long as you're learning something new every single day, you are doing your brain and body amazing, amazing things. Number 5, clear your environment. There is a feedback loop between our internal world and our external world. This is the way it is. What happens is your internal world, your thoughts, your feelings, your chemical reactions in your body, it influences how you perceive the external world. And the external world, how people then interact with you, how they interact with each other, what opportunities you create or that you lose out on, you miss out on. That therefore influences how you perceive things, and then the external world influences your internal world. There is a feedback loop, constant back and forth between our internal state and what's happening outside in the real world as we know it. And what we want to do is, when you declutter, when you get rid of things that you don't need anymore, like I can't remember the actual statistic, but it's shocking. Apparently we do not use as many clothes as we own, as that we have in our wardrobe. It's a very specific amount, and the challenge is, what's the point in keeping that? What's the point in building up all these material goods that we don't even use. Give it away. It makes you feel better to give things away. It makes you feel more abundant. It makes you feel like you don't need things. And the reason why people struggle to give things away, to kind of get rid of their excess clothing or change things or get rid of some ornaments and furniture in the house, the reason why they don't want to do it is because they're clinging onto possessions, which means they're clinging onto labels, which means they're clinging onto their own ego. Yes, who they are, how they identify with, things that remind themselves of who they are, their identity, their gender, where they're from, what their childhood was like, what they've done in their life. But if you're living in this kind of limited world, because we live in our physical form is very limited in itself, and the more we identify with things that kind of limit who we are, that say this is who I am, anything different to who we are and what we have and what we've been through, we see as a threat, and that's completely inappropriate. Instead, we all share so many commonalities, and you can essentially become more peaceful, more conscious by having less. So yes, organize your wherever you live, organize your environments, when you go to work and so on and so on. Make it nice and clear, because a clear place, it reflects a clear mind. And the more clear your mind is, the more clarity you have in your thoughts. That's right, you have less mental entropy, you have less chaos in the mind, less noise, if you will, less compulsive thinking, less egoic talk. This is who you are. What did they mean by that? How did you feel when they did that? How are you going to get revenge on this person? All this kind of noise in your mind fuels negativity. It fuels a sense of lack in our lives. So instead, have clarity, keep things simple, only have essentials, look after yourself, and understand that there is more to life than just this superficial, pretentious way of living. Okay, so number 6 is our relationships. Surveys have been done, and they say the number one thing that influences our levels of happiness in life is the quality of our relationships. Without having good fundamental relationships that's based on unconditional love, which means you're not always judging people based on their results, how well they do with things. You accept people for who they are. You love them unconditionally. You're always there for them. That's what the definition of unconditional love. Then people feel more secure, they feel more relaxed, they feel like they can go and thrive in their life, they can try new things because they've got that love, they've got that foundation in place. So yes, share this video, for example, with someone, with your friends, with people you loved, because this is about spreading knowledge, getting people on the right track, helping them with their directions, their emotions in life. So show your love, show your unconditional love for them by sharing the video, for instance. So unconditional love is key. How can you develop appreciation? Telling people what you think about them, telling them how much you cared about them, telling them what you like about them, what you appreciate about them, telling them you love them. I know, awkward for some people, but who cares? We need to override this kind of limiting presence by feeling afraid to say certain things, because the ego creates incompleteness, and incompleteness creates fear because we feel threatened and we feel like we're not enough and these sort of things. So let's get all of that nonsensical stuff and let's step above this. So yes, building rapport is key. You might want to do strategies like pacing and leading, essentially mirroring. So if someone's standing like that talking to you and you want to develop an even stronger emotion with them, don't stand like that, for example, or don't stand differently. Kind of mimic their kind of body language. The same goes to their breathing. You might want to mimic their breathing patterns. It shows great synchronicity, great congruency, and really makes people feel like you're connected. Use the same kind of emotional state. So if someone's talking to you like this, it could actually build your relationship with them, build rapport with them by talking back to them like this. Because when we mirror someone, it's their way of, it's a physiological way of saying, I am like you, we are similar. So yes, copy their mannerisms where possible. Obviously, don't make it too obvious. You don't want to seem sarcastic and these sort of things, because that will ruin building rapport. Copy their power words. So if people use certain words such as love, peaceful, relaxed, great, superb, phenomenal. Pay attention to the words and the vocabulary people use. And when you use those words back to them, they unconsciously start to think, wow, this person is really like me. I really love them. I really feel close to them. These are some of the sort of ways that you can build rapport with people. Let's move on. Number 7 is to become conscious of your I ams. Yes, when you use the pronouns I am, and whatever follows thereafter, you are commanding yourself into a destiny. You are essentially saying to yourself that this is the way I am now, but also, and also more perilously, you are also saying that this is the way things are going to be in the future. So if you say to yourself some kind of limiting belief such as I am clumsy, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good looking enough, I'm not athletic enough, whatever it might be, that's going to be your truth, because you are connecting the words I am your identity to a certain behavior. And what happens is when you do certain behaviors and actions in a specific way over a period of time, we do begin to associate it with who we are, our identity, and therefore the behavior becomes automatic. So if you wake up and you're always saying to yourself disparaging, belittling things such as, I'm not smart enough, I'm not creative enough, I'm not this enough, well, firstly, you're going to live up to those limiting standards, and you're not going to become creative or smart enough, and you're not going to do the kind of things, the verbs that enable you to become smarter or more creative or more successful. So what happens is when you say these statements, we project our future, and we're unable to change if we abide by I ams. So firstly and foremostly, become aware and conscious of when you're using the terms I am, and become more aware and understand that you don't need I ams. You don't need to latch on to certain labels, because we are far greater than that as human beings. We should have a deep level of consciousness where we rise above just this physical self, this form-based self, this time-bound self, where we're preoccupied with the environment, the body, time of thinking about the past and dwelling on the future unnecessarily. And I'll talk about that in a moment as well. So instead, gain your composure, become aware of your I ams, and understand how detrimental it can be when you use I am statements. Okay, so point 8. I need you to think greater than how you feel. That's right. What do I mean by that? Well, what happens is when you do certain behaviors on a regular basis, it becomes a subconscious program. It becomes deeply ingrained within our unconscious. So it takes between 66 days to 365 days for a pattern to be deeply instilled in our unconscious. Your body actually exemplifies the unconscious. Your body is just simply the majority of the day in terms of how it reacts to things, your visceral reactions, if you will, what you're doing. Sometimes you start doing things without thinking things through. That's when you're on automatic pilot. That's a subconscious program. And the problem is, your body, which are your key emotions, which is your unconscious, it runs the show. So we need to get beyond that. And there are, like I said, neuroplasticity, neurogenesis, identifying our patterns are some of the strategies, as well as learning new things, are some of the strategies to help to change your unconscious programs. And so you can start to think greater than how you feel. Because if you just have a pleasant thought in your mind today that says, maybe I will start exercising more often, maybe I will learn how to eat healthily or cook, or maybe I will learn how to play a certain musical instrument, or become an artist in a certain avenue, or develop a martial art, for example, or develop certain skills. That thought alone may not be enough to defeat your emotions. And if that's the case for us, if we sometimes wake up thinking I want to do this, but then within a matter of hours or days that kind of drive dissipates and we kind of get back to our familiar, it's because we are living in the past. We are stuck and we are unable to move on. If you're living in the past, which means that every day you remind yourself of who you are, you remind yourself of key painful experiences that you experienced in the past, whether it was some kind of abuse or neglect, or you felt belittled or uncared for, something like that. It doesn't matter if it was 1 year ago or 20 years ago or 50 years ago. If you are living in the past, if you have an emotional attachment to these painful memories of the past, then you are stuck. We will not be able to overcome that hurdle. We will not be able to move into the future that we want to create for ourselves if we're spending so much time dwelling on the past, reminding ourselves of our limitations, developing that victim-like mentality of, when I was younger I got bullied at this, or this person let me down, or this person stole my money, or that person rejected me. And we develop a victim-like mentality. And in today, these kind of people who have this victim mentality, when they look to change their lives, they will also come up with reasons and people to blame. Say, that person did that to me. That's the reason why I'm unsuccessful. That's the reason why I'm not smart. That's the reason why I'm not creative. That's the reason why I have no savings. And when you start pointing the finger and you don't take responsibility, you are stuck in the past. You're going to be unable to change, because in order to change, we need to be disciplined, and in order to be disciplined, we need to increase our standards, and in order to increase our standards, we have to take responsibility. Number 9 is to be more present. Now this links very much with the last step that I told you about, the importance of thinking greater than how you feel, because when you are present, you cannot be lost in the past. You can't be arriving from a source of lack and incompleteness, and the egoic mind is not consuming your thinking and your existence in the present moment. Because when you're in the present moment, you are so immersed in this experience within the moment that you are experiencing flow. When you're in the present moment, we're so much more giving, we're so much more loving, we feel so much more abundant. So what do I mean by the present moment? Anytime when you are fully focused on whatever you're doing in this moment, and you're not thinking about the past, maybe what happened a week ago or yesterday or months ago or years ago or decades ago, and whenever you're not worrying about the future, thinking about how am I going to pay for those bills, what did they mean, what's going to happen when I have that meeting, what if I do the wrong thing, what's going to happen if I don't make that investment, or will this person leave me if I don't do this and that, and you start dwelling on the worst case scenarios of the future. Firstly, you move towards what you imagine, because your unconscious cannot tell the difference between what's real and what you vividly imagined in your mind. So be careful of what you rehearse in your mind. And instead be present. Let go of the past, let go of the future, and be present now. And one way you can become present, the easiest way to become present, is to work on your breathing. Focus on every single inhale and exhale. Focus on channeling your energy from your body all the way up to your heart and to your brain. That's how it enables you to access gamma brainwave state, the most beautiful, blissful brainwave state that exists. It's when you're highly alert, highly focused, you feel so much lighter, you feel pure love, pure energy. And that's the kind of source for creativity. That's how you can kind of change your subconscious programs. It actually stimulates neuroplasticity as well whenever we experience gamma brainwave state. So this is key, and we can only experience gamma when we are fully present and in the moment, and we feel loved, appreciated, we're ready to give, we're ready to open up, if you will. So yes, be more present, focus on your breathing, and even just becoming aware of simple things around you. Paying attention to where you are. For example, I can feel my feet firmly on the ground right now. I'm fully aware of how my hands feel pressed up against each other. Like, I'm fully in the moment. And it's not just these sort of things, it's about teaching yourself to become aware of small things in life. Pay attention to the sound of the birds chirping and singing. Pay attention to the water flowing if you're walking past the river or pond, or you're putting water in a bucket and you're watering flowers, for example. Pay attention to the small insects that you sometimes overlook because you're so in a hurry to get to that's a certain place by a certain time, and you're putting so much stress, and you're in beta brainwave state and you're all over the place. Instead, it's about relaxing yourself, and that's why experiencing nature is one of the best things to do to become more present, because it changes your brain frequency. It lowers you down from high beta or beta brainwave state into the lower areas such as alpha and theta brainwave state, which are the brainwave states associated with also creativity, with learning, with being relaxed and more peaceful. And when you experience alpha and theta brainwave states, that's what enables you to go and experience gamma brainwave state, which is the most empowering brainwave state of them all. So yes, become present, become more grateful, become more aware of the small, beautiful, subtle things and experiences, and the 5 senses as well: what you see, what you hear, what you touch, what you feel, and so on and so forth. I forgot the other. Because those are the kind of ways that you're going to become more present when you're taking all this sensory data and you're really experiencing it fully. So last and certainly not least, number 10 is sleep. Our quality of sleep is absolutely crucial. We live in a society where we have this crazy ideology, this crazy way of thinking that we're popular, that don't sleep as much. It's not cool to sleep long. You can only 4 hours, 5 hours. You're ready. Get up, get out. Start doing things. You haven't got time to sleep. You've got things to do and all these sorts of things. No, that's extremely detrimental. Our sleep quality is very much closely aligned to our levels of joy, happiness. It enables us to eat more healthily because it It ensures that our hormones are functioning properly, so it satiates our appetite in terms of leptin production. Leptin is associated with feeling full and satiated, and it reduces ghrelin when we sleep well. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone that makes us want to eat more ravenously, more unhealthily, more often, and thus gain weight, chronic stress, chronic inflammation, all those kind of problems that I talked about at the beginning of this video. So sleeping well is crucial. Sleeping well helps your quality of performance and productivity for the next day. And if you do not sleep well, one night, what happens is, and by not sleeping well, I mean less than 5 hours or less per night, just one night of poor sleep can reduce your productivity and your performance quality by up to 40%. That means not being able to lift as much in the gym. That means not able to speak and to be charismatic in your meetings or in your presentations. That means not being able to thrive when you go into a sporting event. If you're, whatever sports you're playing, for example, your level of performance will significantly diminish. Sleep is crucial. Now, sleep is also fundamental for ensuring that our short-term knowledge gets transferred to our long-term memory. So if you're learning things, if you're revising for exams, if you want to stimulate neurogenesis and to help keep those neural networks that I told you about, those new neural networks that we want to sustain, sleep quality helps us to ensure that it becomes deeply logged and ingrained in our long-term memory. Sleep is crucial. Sleep helps to remove plaque from the brain so that we can think more clearly. It reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease, strokes. Sleep quality reduces the risk of or delays the onset of age-related illnesses like dementia and Alzheimer's as well. Sleep is crucial, and sleep quality is also linked to ensuring that we live a healthier, more abundant life. So make sure that you sleep between 8 to 8.5 hours every single night. You can have a nap. Naps are, short-term mechanisms. You can catch up on sleep through naps, but try not to rely on naps to catch up on sleep. Don't think that you can go throughout the whole week of, say, on 5 hours sleep only, and then on Saturday, Sunday you get to 10 hours per night. It doesn't quite work that way. So be careful, be thoughtful, establish good nighttime routines. Whatever it might be reading to help you get ready for sleep. You want to calm down your brain. You don't want to be on social media, on your phone, or on computers, because the blue light that it emits, it reduces the production of melatonin. Melatonin is what you need to relax, to prepare you for sleep. So when you go on your phone and so on and so forth, or whenever you do something overly stimulating, you're going to be thinking too much. You're not setting yourself up for a great night's sleep. So yes, take your sleeps seriously and watch the abundance that you create in your life as well. Okay, I want to give you some more bonuses here. Let's dive straight in. So, bonus tip number 1. One of the things that I want you to do is to disconnect from the external world, and essentially what I'm saying is disconnect from technology. We get obsessed, and when we start using social media way too much excessively, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all these sorts of social media sites, or when we watch TV for too long and so on and so forth, we're not allowing ourselves to switch off. We're not allowing ourselves to detach and really focus on simple things and really to put things into perspective, if you will, which happens when you surround yourself with people who you love and you physically connect with them, and make sure that you are experiencing nature and paying attention to the simple things in life. Because when you remind yourself of who you are by going on these social media sites or using technology too often, the average person uses Instagram 150 times a day. Studies show that people who stay on Facebook for more than 10 minutes, there is, their levels of joy and happiness and peacefulness decline, and levels of stress, feeling inadequate, their egoic minds becomes rampant, their compulsive thinking takes over, and that's why I'm not saying don't use them, I use them as well, but be thoughtful with how you're using them, and make sure you set time aside every day, a few hours, to pull away from all kinds of technology, to kind of switch off as well, and to kind of gather yourself and to access those more peaceful brainwave states that I spoke about earlier. Okay, so bonus tip number 2 is to decide who you want to be. It might be worthwhile to pay attention to who your role models are, and to essentially think, how do they behave? What are they like? What kind of patterns or routines do they do that I can integrate into my life? Start to mentally rehearse who you want to be in your life. Actually visualize who you want to be, because that's what's going to give you the platform, the springboard, the image, the picture, the vision in your mind. That's going to give you that purpose so that you can move towards it. Okay, it's essentially the secret. Imagine what you want in your life. Imagine yourself being successful or doing certain activities and skills at a very high level. You know, shockingly, this is what studies now show as well. You know, there were studies where people played musical instruments and obviously developed new neural networks in their brain because they were developing these skills, right? That makes sense. But also there were another batch of people who were taken into a studio, if you will. They were told to just sit down, close their eyes and mentally rehearse doing certain compositions and so on and so forth of the musical instrument, and it created the same neural networks in their brain as if they had been playing it for hours. This is tremendous. So the more we imagine ourselves executing things at a very high level, being happy, being blissful, succeeding, doing what we want to do, utilizing a range of NLP based strategies, seeing it through your eyes and not from a third person's perspective, making sure when you imagine in the future that you see it in bright, vivid colors, in HD resolution, things are crystal clear. Make sure you don't see it in like that much of your vision. Take up the whole of your vision when you imagine how successful, happy, peaceful, blissful you want to be in your life. You might want to add some sound effects. You might want to add some noises. You might want to add some clips. You want to make it a moving image, if you will. That enhances the experience even further. Zoom in on key parts within the things that you're focusing on as well to really explode the emotional intensity, the beauty of that experience. These are some of the ways that you can associate with the experience more. And you can do vice versa with anything that you want to disassociate from in your past as well. Do the exact opposite. So yes, that's another strategy. Decide who you want to be. Start to take traits from different people. That's what I do. I have many role models in my life, and what I do is, you know, I really like that about that person, or this about that person. What I'm going to do is I'm going to extract the best from the best, and therefore make myself even happier, more conscious, more peaceful, more enlightened. I'm going to become more productive. I'm going to learn more quickly because I'm learning from some amazing people, and I'm bringing it into my own personality and so on and so forth. So that's another great strategy. Okay, lastly, bonus tip number 3, never leave today's things for tomorrow. If something's important to you, if you have to do something and you wanted to do it today, but for whatever reason, maybe you think you're busy, maybe a limiting belief, you're trying to convince yourself to not do it, maybe you're procrastinating, self-sabotaging, and you're trying to put it off, saying, I'm going to do this tomorrow instead, or I'll do it next week, or we'll delay that for a little while. No, make sure if there's something important, if it's a priority for you, make sure you block away time to make sure you do it today. Don't delay it, because that's your ego's way of putting you off. That's your unconscious kind of taking over and cunningly and brilliantly trying to put you off from doing the things that you want to do. So this is what I mean by thinking greater than how you feel. Make sure you have a good day. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you relive this video and watch it several times to deeply ingrain it within your unconscious as well. And make sure you subscribe and hit the notification button too. Have a great day. Stay strong.